do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, certainly tonight's show seems to have piqued a bit of interest in our testes, doesn't it? Paul, I hope you're doing all right. Apparently you've got something engraved on yours. Not your testes, but maybe what you found in there. Whew. Good luck to you. We shall talk more about, not your testes, but testes in general in the not-too-distant future. Hello, folks. How are you? I hope you're having a good night. And your day has been a good one. I hope the day hasn't been too taxing in all the usual ways that they can tend to be a little bit taxing. Been a fairly good day here, and just getting ready to get prepped and head to Canberra for the Supreme Court appeal happening on Monday with Paul Offe for the Freedom Truck. So getting a bit of washing and packing done is about the first part of it. I saw this pop up the other day. Pardon me. Now, I think this is a really good question. One has to wonder why we would ever need a national alert. Fire, flood, quake, all that sort of stuff is generally localized. You're quite right. Why would we need a national alert? Could it be because the bird flu is poisoning Australians through that dead whale that washed up on a Cronulla beach? Stranger things have happened. Convid, after all, was strange, and isn't all that falling apart? We will talk about that in the not-too-distant future. In fact, there's a couple of interesting things going on in the world at the moment. And here in Australia, a couple of exceptionally interesting court cases which are underway as we speak or about to start. Scotty the News had his tooth ripped out today. It was epic. 2.5 hours. Must have been a hell of a tooth. Where'd the roots go to? Your toes. Painful? Painful would be the bill. I saw just under $500, 460 something on dollars. Yeah, that's never a good thing. Heading off to the dentist is painful in more ways than it should be. And I've always wondered why Medicare doesn't cover dental. Do we ever have any ideas as to why that is the case? But anyway, I believe it should, and I would probably vote for somebody who said they were going to put dental into Medicare. God knows we'd all have much better teeth, wouldn't we? But anyway, has anybody noticed how they're putting petrol up? Yes, Ali, I've noticed that too. In my part of the world, it seems to be crimping up every day. I think they're doing it because they know I'm going to need more of it over the next few days going to Canberra. So that's what the bastards do. I'm sure they listen to the mobile phone. Leaveold's going somewhere. We'll just jack the price up a bit. Anyway, good luck to them. Gav, you test to see if you have testes. The test to see if I'll read it correctly. The test to see if you have testes was whether or not you took the vax to begin with. Yes, it did take a small amount of testicular fortitude to push back against that. I grant you. And there are many, many good Australians who did. The lovely Aussie Sue, as always, wants you to give us a thumbs up if you can. God knows we need it. And subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the show. Hello to everybody. I'll jump back into the live chat. I know we've got a whole new bunch of heads in there. I think I said saw Gail. G'day, Paul. Got quite a few in there chatting. Wapner's in there too, bragging about his foot, no doubt. It's all looking very, very good. And if he's not bragging about his foot, maybe he's got the harp out and is playing tunes. Hello, Sunflower. I hope you're doing well too, darling. You and Rick and the rest of the family are kicking along. All right, let's get into it a little bit. You might remember last week, Pauline Hanson was in all sorts of shit for talking about white Australia. And in fact, meeting up with Tommy Robinson and the ensuing immigration talk has only made that repertoire, if you like, the white Australia policies that they're talking about. And, Pauline supports white Australia, yada, yada. Well, look, really in Australia, there has only been one name associated with white Australia in the recent past, and that name is Thomas Sewell. And Thomas has got all sorts of issues with what's going on about the White Australia Party ban that was brought into place in January this year after the Albo Squeezy and co decided they had to do something after Bondi. And so what did they do? They banned a political party. Now, like it, don't like the name, like it or don't like what they stand for, really doesn't matter. What does matter is that under our constitution, they have a right to form a party and a right to see whether or not anybody will vote for them. There have been some interesting little turn-ups for the books regarding why White Australia was banned. And ASIO have come out and made quite a number of startling submissions that as to why they classified White Australia or the White Australia Party or the banning of it to be so important. One of the larger reasons was because they were banned because they were engaging in political processes. Now that's a biggie, engaging in political processes. Well, that's what a political party does. It engages in a political process. So I'm just trying to see. I'll try and make that a little bigger so I can read it. There we go. I'll move over here a bit. Now, our Director General of ASIO, Mike Burgess, went to the government and said, oh, yes, a lot of hand-wringing involved. We're going to have to limit their ability. You know, I'd like to point out, well, in fact, I think he points out in one of these that the agency went on to state that White Australia was not engaged in criminal activity or the promotion of violence, but said there was a risk that the organisation may advocate for or engage in the promotion of communal violence in the future. Well, I would argue that that's already happening with the Palestinian marches on a weekly basis, if they're still happening like that. I don't know that they are still happening. I would argue that it happens with every protest or every time somebody pushes back against the government. I don't think that's going to be much by way of a legal defence for them. And I've got a sneaking suspicion that Thomas and the White Australia Party might just about be able to get themselves back again. However, ASIO assesses that the White Australia Party or White Australia is aware of the current legal thresholds for criminality and at this point in time deliberately endeavours to engage in the activity by stopping short of those thresholds. Now, ASIO have also assessed that, I love this bit, the activities and messaging of the White Australia Party were nonetheless likely to increase the risk of others that they would promote communal violence. So they've banned White Australia, not because they've broken any laws, not because they've engaged in incitement or anything else. They've engaged in banning them because of what might happen. I don't understand how you can do that lawfully. Mind you, what's lawful and what's legal are two very, very different things, and we know that we have legal courts, not lawful ones. So Thomas is back to the High Court challenging this, I think, in November. Might be earlier than that, September. And it will be a very, very, very good argument that he puts forward. And I think he has very good legs for the argument. The police, the government, and the security services have acted in bad faith. And they've created a law that is definitely not what I would call lawful. But if it can be stopped for engaging in political processes, I would argue that that's exactly what they did to Pauline Hanson when they threw her in jail. Now, she was in jail, 11 weeks, and won on appeal instantly, walked out of jail that day. I'm pretty confident that we might find something similar happening here for Thomas Sewell in the not too distant future. Oh, I've got to tell you, folks, I'm not feeling very well. It's just come over me. If I have to go quickly, it's because I'm feeling I might have to throw up. Maybe it's just the subject matter for tonight's show might be doing it to me, but yeah, just come over me. It's a bit weird. All right, moving on. If you are in Brisbane next Tuesday night, I would urge you to take a little drive, go and have a meal at the Tingalpa Hotel and sit down and catch up with young Jaden from Voting Matters. Now, go to votingmatters.com.au and check out what Jaden is doing. Jaden is the young man responsible for taking the Queensland Health Department to court over COVID and the mandates that they put in. Now, he'll be speaking at the Tingalpa Hotel on the 28th of July. That's next Tuesday. He's going to start at 7 o'clock and probably go for an hour, hour and a half. I would urge you to get along to that one. It is quite possibly the most important legal case in the world at the moment. Whew. Something's not liking me. At any rate, get along to that, folks. Oh, I don't know that I'm going to be able to get through this. The last thing I want to do is throw up in front of you. But that's where I fear this is going. I'm sorry, folks. I'm going to cut this short because I really think I've got to go. I apologize. Stick around. I'll put another show up in half an hour or so if I have stopped doing what I think I'm about to do. Oh, don't know where this has come from. Just give me a minute. Mind over matter here, working hard. Trying to stop that funny little feeling that you get just before you throw up. You know that one? All right. I'm going to try and push on. We'll see how far we get. Now, have you ever heard of the Evian Conference? And when I heard that term, I thought, oh, they sat down to figure out who was going to charge for the most expensive water in the world or something like that. Well, it turns out it wasn't anything to do with that at all. It was a conference that was put together in 1938, held in the shores of Lake Geneva. And it was brought together by a number of countries in the Western world. And, oh, pardon me. And it was done because Hitler was moving throughout that time on the Jews in Germany. Now, Hitler had, as we've spoken about previously, had put together a policy to help Jews immigrate out of Germany. They had also, at that time, by 1938, removed a lot of the civil rights of Jews in Germany at that time. They'd also removed their rights for business and other things. This was in the lead up, of course, to the Second World War. Now, Hitler had made it very clear for many years that they wanted the Jews out. And this conference was put together, and it wound up becoming one of the most debated diplomatic events in history because it preceded the Holocaust. And the whole point of this meeting was to get countries to agree to take the Jews out of Germany and let them immigrate into those other countries. Now, there were a lot of countries involved in this, 32 of them, in fact. And Australia was one of those countries. Canada, America, interestingly, in America, Roosevelt would not countenance any lifting of the immigration quota for the Americans. And as it turned out, in Australia, we were probably a bit along the same way. we had an Australian representative who was there at the time. And he stood up quite forcefully at the appropriate point and told the world that, well, Australia had different ideas when it came to immigration. And Hitler took that and used that propaganda, not just from the Australian, but from the 32 countries that were asked to help out by Germany. Please take the Jews. And sadly, they all said no. Now, the good Colonel Thomas Walter White, his name was, what a great guy to send to the Evian Conference. He said, as we have no real radical racial problem, we are not desirous of importing one. A lot of the discussions from the other nations that were involved in this conference were the same. They felt they were going to be importing more problems than they would be solving. I don't know that they expected Hitler to go forth and do what he did, but at any rate, there were 32 nations, including Australia, that were given plenty of opportunity to help the Jews in Germany escape well before the Holocaust ever began. So that's something that I never knew, and really literally found out about this conference today. And I'm endeavoring to dig a little deeper to find out what more was sort of brought forth in this meeting, because these nations, and of course, we know Russia already had quite a lot of Jews throughout Russia, including especially from the Bolshevik War onwards. Canada, the United States, Mexico, South America. You'll notice that they weren't trying to feed any of the Jewish nations into the Middle Eastern countries at the time. I, for the life of me, can't understand why. But if you're looking for an interesting read, then check out the Evian Conference of 1938, more particularly how it was set up and how and who did the vast majority of backpedaling when it came to being able to help out the Jewish nation. Now, the reason I bring it up is, you know, is this being used by these Jewish organizations to say, oh, well, you weren't there to help us then?
Why is everybody always picking on me?
Why is everybody always picking on us? You know, you're not there to help us. You're never there to help us. And yet we always seem to be in the center of the fighting. This is a question I would ask once again, any Jewish folks that follow the show. I genuinely am keen to know, why wouldn't 32 countries take large amounts of Jews in after or before the Holocaust, before the Second World War began? Why wouldn't they do that? I can think of some economic reasons. I can think of, well, they were just coming out of the Great Depression, America. So they needed a war to get things going, that's for sure. Canada, I imagine, pretty similar sort of situation. The UK, Australia, well, we were just sort of making our way in the world back then. We're a long way away from anything this serious. And, of course, we'd only turn up if the bombs told us to. But the question remains, why did 32 Western nations refuse to help the Jews out of Germany prior to the Second World War, prior to the Holocaust? And I don't know that we need to ask the 32 countries that. I think we need to ask the Jewish nation that. Why did these countries not want you in their country? What had you done? What previous actions had they seen that they said, oh, well, you bring a few too many things with you. We don't want that in our part of the world. So I think it's well worthwhile looking at that conference and going through some of the documents. Got through that bit. No, I'm not having a heart attack. Just for those of you who are wondering. Smart dust. If it was that bloody smart, wouldn't it pick itself up? Anyway, this shit is made by Hitachi, and it is very, 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 very small. It has been used for some years, and in fact has been blown onto paint on cars, and particularly in Europe, they use it to track vehicles and all that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, if you swallow it, given that, most of us are an antenna these days, they can track you with all this stuff too. So smart dust rather, is probably in water and other sorts of things. But smart dust is definitely playing a role in people's lives at the moment, and it may just be an AI aid at this point. But something that small, they can do an awful lot of stuff to your body with all that sort of crap. So I'd just be a little wary of little square bits of dirt that you find lying around your house. Now, I don't want you running around with a magnifying glass looking for square bits of dirt, but it'll give you an idea. And there is a lot of information available on smart dust. And I've got to say, from what I've seen, there are a lot of really good applications for it as well. Really good applications for it. Speaking of really good applications, the World Cup has just come to an end. I don't know that I cared. Apparently, I think Spain won. Yay. But the World Cup has brought together a huge amount of people in America to see how the Americans treat the world game. I don't think too many of them were very happy about it. They're very happy now that they've got another 4 years to wait before playing in what promises to be the mega stadium of the world. Saudi Arabia hosts the next World Cup, and that is the stadium they are currently building. It's going to be 320 odd meters up in the sky. And I've got to say, it looks like an extremely impressive field, marvelous place to play on. Has anybody ever seen the movie Towering Inferno? Just saying, asking for a friend, But look, if they build that, that'll be great. You might also know that the Saudis were building that wall across the deserts. It was 500 meters high or whatever it was, and half a kilometer wide, and everybody was going to live in that long, great expanse and be happy for it. That's all come to a grinding halt. The build has stopped, not because of the war, not because of anything Iran is doing. No, it's just decided that it is a bit of folly, and the amount of money that's being spent on it is just stupid beyond belief. Parents are having a win in Victoria. God, you've got to be happy about this. Tens of thousands of teachers walk off the job in Victoria as part of a major strike. Thank God. Do not send your kids back there. That's the best thing that's happened to your kids all year. The teachers not coming to school. Stop the brainwashing. Get your kids out of that system, folks. It's just not worth it. Because inside that system, the brainwashing dulls them, so that when bad things happen in the world and people like you and I come along and start saying, oh, you might want to have a look at that, they'll take notice. Because as we've seen in the last great con, probably the greatest human deaths in history attributed to COVID, and now, well, they always said you'd go blind from masturbating, but apparently now you just go blind from getting the COVID.
COVID-19 mRNA injections actually destroy 8.4% of non-renewable eye cells in just 75 days. This was of 64 healthy young adults who did receive Pfizer's mRNA injection, and they did find irreversible structural damage to the eye's corneal endothelium. This is the base layer of cells on the cornea, on the bottom of the cornea. Corneal endothelium does not regenerate, right? So this damage is indeed permanent. The study found that endothelial cell density decreased by 8.4%. Cell size variation increased by 7.7%, which does indicate cell stress. Hexagonality, which means normal shaped cells, actually decreased by about 2%, indicating structural distortions. And central corneal thickness increased by 2.8%, indicating swelling and fluid imbalance. We have to remember that injury to this base layer of non-renewable cells can lead to blurred vision, chronic swelling, and even blindness in severe cases. The harms of these shots just keep piling up.
Unbelievable. And the research is ongoing, so I don't think we're at the end of it yet. And the new and exciting things that they're finding as a result of being jabbed, well, the list is growing. What more can we say? Including what's going on with your testes. We've spoken, we've alluded to the fact, we've said it outright, I think, on numerous occasions, that the COVID jab has been able to affect fertility. And a lot of people just assumed that would be fertility in females, but very sadly, that isn't the case.
Shows that actually we could confirm that the spike protein is produced in the deltoid muscles where the vaccine is administered, injected. But we could show it in almost all organs, more or less explicitly. And here you see a case where we show the testes, and you can see that in this 28-year-old man who had a healthy son and who died 140 days after injection, the spike protein is strongly expressed in the spermatogenic organ in the testis, and you can see there are almost no spermatocytes in here, but it's strongly expression of spike protein in the spermatogonic tissue. So also in elder person, this is an old man, and you can see here's also a strong expression in the spermatogonia. There's not one single spermatozoon in this, and a strong expression of the spike protein. So if I may make a personal comment, this is not a scientific comment. If I were a woman in fertile age, I would not plan a motherhood from a man who has been vaccinated, unless I think these pictures are very disturbing, very disturbing.
Yeah, that's Dr. Arndt Bernhardt, and he's been speaking at a conference in the last little while about the results he's finding inside the testes of the cadavers that he's investigating. And as you heard there was a 28-year-old guy died 140 days post-jab, and you could see a huge attack on his fertility from there. So who knows? There might be hope for those of us that didn't get the jab yet and haven't had enough kids. I've probably had enough kids. One of the things that I've been showing you recently is a bit of drone technology, folks. And God knows I can't wait to be able to get into your own personal flying machine and take it for a run. I don't want it to cost me 178,000 euros, as it currently appears to do. But there are new ones coming on the market every day, and showed you a Chinese one last night, and there's more Chinese ones coming on the market today. However, there is also new technology on the market to stop drones dead in the air in their tracks. Now, okay, these sorts of drones are generally employed in a weaponized way, and what I'm about to show you is going to change the way that those drones are used in war going forward.
High-power pulse microwaves are transmitted to 5 drone circuit boards. GPS and flight control chip within effective range.
That's a EMP, a mobile EMP that can go clearly on the back of a, F-150 or something like that. That's not going to be a lot of fun when you're flying around in your little motorized Jetson machine and some arsehole has one of those and fires it in the wrong direction. Going to have a lot of crashes. That's why I would suggest maybe that Chinese drone from last night, because at least it had a parachute built into it. So a bit of loveliness and logic there. Folks, I am going to leave it tonight. I don't know whether I'm going to throw up or not, and I'm right on the verge. So I'm going to love you and leave you for this evening. I may come back a bit later on tonight. If not, I'll see you tomorrow night for the Friday free-for-all. But I feel extraordinarily like I'm going to just throw up all over my keyboard. And if I do that, Vince is going to be very upset. So I'll love you and leave you for tonight, and we will catch up again tomorrow. I'm sorry, I've got a bit more to show you, but we'll catch up with that tomorrow night. Be safe on the roads. Avoid the dickheads.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!